It is time for another monthly report. It's the end of the month, or actually, I guess it's the beginning of the month. And that means that last month there was plenty of development that occurred in Star Citizen over the weeks and days. So today we're going to review all of it in good old-fashioned tomato detail, which means probably a bunch of tangents and getting off track. But it also means, hopefully, some interesting foresight on what's coming up next in Star Citizen, features, ships, and more. Let's start out with AI content. June saw AI content meeting with the directors and combat AI team to keep pushing the development of the updated combatant wildline script. This new line set covers both FPS and dogfighting NPCs and provides a much needed update to the enemies players have been fighting for years. Wildlines are nice. I get really tired of hearing the NPCs say the same thing over and over and over again, especially when I'm not hiding from them. They always accuse me of hiding. I'm looking for them. I'm not hiding. See me. The team is currently looking into leveraging dynamic conversations while keeping the line sets concise enough to potentially offer gang-specific voice packs. However, conversations and prototyping are required before they can begin capturing this content. Usually that means it's on the AI tech team down here or the AI game intelligence team. Content is the ones, they're like, we want to do this thing, and then they tell these people down here, we want to do this thing, and then they work on the tech and we hear about it. This is still a little ways out, but gang-specific voice packs, that's nice. I mean, dynamic conversations that have to do with the actual people being conversed is something that I really look forward to. Outside of combat, the team updated civilian behaviors to utilize additional lines that haven't been used yet and to make them feel more reactive in more environments. Finally, AI tech supported the integration of new mission providers into upcoming content, not tech. Mission providers is something to keep an eye on. The way that Star Citizen wants to move forward with mission givers is a little up in the air right now. I think we're getting very close to seeing some of their first true implementations, though. I think it's going to be a mix of what we see from Wicklow, Gilly in the new combat missions, and like a little bit of maybe Ruto or somebody like that. I think it's going to be somebody who's giving us a lot of relatively generic missions, but they are wrapped in more narrative, and they will be our point of contact for a faction. As opposed to before, when they first introduced mission givers like Miles Eckhart and Tisha Pacheco, these were people that they wanted to have like completely custom-made storylines with big narrative twists and kind of cinematic playthroughs. They might still do that with a few select mission givers, but at least as of right now, the model that it looks like they're working on is something a lot more packaged for the game. Yeah, the narrative upgrade is going to be great no matter what. I'm very satisfied with the way that they have been starting to bring more life into the game this year. One of the least impactful things that probably shows up on a playability list is NPCs talking. And it's been nice to actually hear them talking when you go into a hospital or when you're walking through a space station or even when you're out at an outpost. Just hearing lines here and there is like a little more life in the game. Moving on to AI features, last month AI features completed their tasks for the irradiated Valakar, which made its debut in the PU. This was the culmination of months of hard work by cross-disciplinary teams, including AI features in tech, animation, gameplay programming, art, VFX, audio, design, and weapons. We're really enjoying the lovely feedback that the community has given fighting this giant. It's making us very excited for future creatures and encounters to come. The latter part of the month was focused on bug fixing. No way. I hear they don't fix bugs in this game. This included edge cases where Valakars didn't emerge, despawned too soon, or failed to spit during large animations. Sometimes you just fail to spit. Can't get the job done. Improvements were also made to the juvenile and adult Valakar, including changes to their positioning to prevent overlap and the better handling of unreachable targets. This also informed a fix for Copion chasing targets that become unreachable. The team then continued to develop upcoming creatures, the details of which will be shared in the coming months. Okay, hold on. Wait a second. Take me back. Open road, country home, lonely toads. Take me back. Because I'm pretty sure 2 monthly reports ago, we were hearing about a new fauna. Was that 3 months ago? They progressed with the Valakar, supported various new mission givers and world NPCs, and began working on new creature. This was in April. So Animation was working on a new creature back in April. And now they have AI working on possibly that same new creature. Major and minor bugs were fixed for human combat alongside additional behavior work. This included aiming improvements to consider what part of the enemy is visible. For example, aiming specifically at the head if the chest is obstructed. That was the end of a sentence. I just kind of butchered it. Support was also added for NPCs using advanced weapon types such as beam weapons or lasers that can overheat. Ooh, I bet they suck at those. I bet they just never overheat for them. They're such cheaters. Updates were made to NPCs searching and looting ammo and weapons. The medical animation flow was polished to remove pops, and more control was given to the designers over friendly fire parameters. I think AI performance has long been hidden by the poor servers, so we can't see that they aren't very good, but their behaviors are getting better over time, even since 4.0. And I'm not sure if they're being added throughout the months or if the game is getting stable enough for them to work, but I would really like to see what an AI in this game looks like when it uses all the stuff that we've heard about in these monthly reports. Probably the Squadron 42 AI. Like, I want to see how they really play in a full uncut, like 10-minute portion of firefight gameplay in Squadron 42. Because the things we hear about from the AI are freaking great. They're great. But for the most part, AI in Star Citizen feel pretty bad. They're a lot more fun to fight. I've been having the best experiences ever at the Hathor locations over the last couple weeks, but in terms of real smarts and strategy and putting that on show, I would love to see more of this kind of stuff going on. And I'm glad to see it in these monthly reports. Just want to see it in the game too. Fixes were made to perception, audio perception, combat investigation, and grenades as well. For the latter, updates were made to the targeting and cooldown timer and collision checks when throwing grenades, while a fix was made to ensure that drop grenades always explode. I freaking love using grenades in this game. You never know if they're going to blow you up or your enemy or your friend or some random box in the complete opposite direction of where you threw it. Game Intelligence Development Team. What do they have to say in June? The Game Intelligence Development Team started the month with meetings related to Starscript, Mission System 2.0, the Commentator Model, the Density Profiler, Entity Scripting, Mannequin, and the Animation System. Most of which we don't really know what the heck they are. Mission System 2.0 is always fun to hear though. I would love to hear more about that. Oh look, there's more about it here. Progress was also made on the prototype for Mission System version 2.0. Implementation of the outline header and dashboard began. The visuals are evolving and adapting gradually to the limitations of Qt programming. As part of this, more icons were created to represent each mission component. Give me 1 second here. I actually have a thread with ChatGPT where we archive every monthly report and go over them in detail. So anytime I want to find out some information about something, you can see here, I was asking about narrative. And so I can specifically ask for any narrative reports on the monthly reports from a certain thing, and it can pull up all of those references for me. So I like to do this because it helps me do research as there's more and more information, and I just completely have, honestly, my head is too full. I can't remember this stuff anymore. So this really helps. Let's see if there been any recent mentions, of a Mission System V2 in the monthly reports. Let's see if there have been any, because I actually don't know if they've said specifically. Oh, it was mentioned in May. Game Intelligence team began work on the UI prototype for Mission System V2, specifically the outline header design, including the mission object properties design, the outline infrastructure, and generic outline panel. This also involved creating UI visuals for the outline with its components. I mean, compared to what it says here, they started implementing the outline header that the team in May began designing. So they're making steady progress on Mission System V2 here. It doesn't sound like it's anywhere near coming in though, and I would suspect that means that a lot of the missions we've been waiting for, from racing to courier missions to Covalix investigations to other things that still have just disappeared. They're probably not going to be remade until Mission System V2 is done. Hopefully that happens soon. Moving on to AI tech. Throughout June, the AI tech team provided bug fixes and support for the Alpha 4.2 release, including optimizing how navigation mesh regeneration accounts for navigation links. Since last year, the island calculation, which is a way to determine which areas are reachable from the perspective of an NPC, was split into chunks for use by the planetary nav mesh. Related bugs were investigated that caused some NPCs to not be able to find a path from an individual zone to planetary terrain. They also massively optimized the searching of nav mesh around a point. All of these things are focused on making sure that AI can more freely roam planets and moons and just places, walking around. Maybe if they wanted to start staging broken down ground vehicles or crashed derelict ships with survivors that you have to go pick up, they need to start to make sure the AI can actually roam around those areas on a planet that's been generated with millions of square kilometers that they can't possibly test every square that actually works. You can't play test all of this. I mean, maybe you can. Maybe there's a simulation that does it. But at the end of the day, we're kind of testing it for the most part, and they need to make sure that the NPCs can do all this stuff procedurally. So a lot of this is just about making sure that they don't have to find every single spot an NPC can fall. They can just make it so that NPCs know how to handle these planets. That's at least my armchair guess. AI tech converted the internal data structure that points at exclusion volumes or cost modifiers into AABB tree. It's AABB tree to quickly access and exclude unnecessary elements from the queries. I don't know what that means. They then increase the radius used by NPCs to generate nav mesh on planets to provide a better Valakar fight experience. For example, each variant of the creature needs to be able to move large distances around the world, with the recent amends providing improved generation granularity. So there's another thing to think about. NPCs also include fauna. They need to make sure all the animals can work correctly. When the Valakar is not actually being attacked, it would be cool if it was still roaming around the planet, like you could spawn it on accident just by driving around. But yeah, the roving Valakar is an interesting... I don't know if this means it'll be traveling on its own. Would love that. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. Being able to move large distances around the world kind of adds to the idea of monster hunting and tracking, which could really make that part of the game more interesting. A way to mark up brushes, geometries that aren't entities, was implemented to ensure they aren't walkable for NPCs. This was necessary to avoid the use of unnecessary navigation exclusion volumes when artists want to prevent NPCs from walking over specific objects. Ongoing work continued to update 3D pathfinding to use the new voxelizer approach. Alongside this, the team now has full support for quantum boosting energy usage to efficiently use speeds when flying in space. Okay. So that means that AI are starting to become aware of quantum boosting and how it works and how much power they have to do it, is what it sounds like, which is already further ahead than AI have been when it comes to normal quantum jumping for the last 8 years. For StarScript, the export as image functionality now supports exporting multiple graphs at the same time. Numerous other features progressed that will eventually be used directly in StarScript 2. In other work, the ability for NPCs to react to radar pings was added. Now they will either consider a ping as a disturbance to investigate or an active event to bring them into combat. This is the whole idea that you can ping while you're in FPS radar and scanning, and that will show you where other people are, but that ping will also tell them where you are. The whole sonar battling mechanic. And this is good to see, because we've seen plenty of radar and scanning going on in the gameplay, the core gameplay sections, but to hear this stuff work its way into the AI section means that they are truly starting to incorporate it into the game and what it might mean to play beside it. It's a good sign for these features to come ahead, but I gotta say, we're in July and we still haven't seen it in the EPTU, so I don't know when the heckers it's coming. Good tea. Finally, for AI tech, fixes for NPCs driving vehicles were added, which is a feature the team hoped to add to the PU at some point. NPCs driving vehicles. Dude, that is a feature. Oh my gosh, that could be so helpful. Yo, people be scupping. That would be incredible, because we could start to see. I mean, you guys have seen how they're doing the outposts in the game now, right? They're like 50 kilometers away from each other. All they have to do is make convoys driven by NPCs between those two places. And we can have escort missions, we could have bombing missions, we could have stop and disable missions, all kinds of stuff to track down those targets or defend them. And then they can throw in dynamic weather, so we have to get out of our spaceship to do it. Like, a lot of this stuff could be brought together if they manage to. I hope they do. NPCs driving will be great, but also with all the rocks on planets, they might struggle more than we do. We'll see. Animation team. They spent the month supporting the irradiated Valakar alongside another new creature for later this year. There's another mention. They also progressed with animations for pre-combat and social area usables that will promote more stealth gameplay opportunities against NPCs. Facial animations supported multiple releases throughout June. They began by finalizing the content required for Alpha 4.2.1, including new lines for Stows, Walton, and the additional NPCs in the Defend Location missions. Who the heck is Stows and Walton? Are we supposed to know who these people are? Are they mentioned in some other missions or something recently that I've missed? I don't know Stows and Walton. Also, additional NPCs that defend location missions is good. I think I saw something about those missions getting improved. The bunker missions, I believe. Walton is the guy you get during the missions in 4.2. Oh, I see. Who's Stows? Walton does the mercenary missions. Ah, gotcha. I guess Stows must be... maybe Gilly or somebody, I don't know. They then worked alongside the narrative and mocap teams to capture new Mission Giver content for Alpha 4.3 and 4.3.1. The team are currently processing the recorded content as the release dates approach. Dude, they're still working seemingly on quarter-long sprints for each update. I wonder if they have every update split out for specific teams. I know there are some teams that have to do work on each update, but I'm wondering if they are splitting up into like 3 separate sprints. And so every quarter they're all working on something and they all hit their delivery dates. And then the next quarter they start over. Because they're in one single paragraph here, they're referencing work on 3 different updates. I don't know if I've ever even seen this before. This might be like one of the first times this has ever happened in a monthly report. It's not a huge deal. It doesn't mean a lot, but it just goes to show how stacked their work is right now. They're going, like the skeleton team that they have on Star Citizen is still going full throttle. They might not have all the resources they need, but they're pushing. If they're working on 4.3.1 right now before 4.2.1 is even out. Glad to see some more Mission Giver content coming in with those patches, because we haven't even heard about a Mission Giver. We've heard about ASD facilities, but a new Mission Giver could mean a new line of missions and contracts that we can get into. Hopefully something that's giving maybe something industrial, a little more science focused. We're going to skip over ships for now. You know, that's a big section. We're going to pull out the spreadsheet and go over everything we know with this in a little bit here. Let's continue on to core gameplay, which is absolutely tiny this month. I'm probably not even going to do a video about it because this is, I don't know, we'll see. Let's get into it. With the new Stormbreaker content, the core gameplay team added several updates to radiation, hazard areas, and damage over time handling. New IFCS logic was also added for storm clouds. This is something that I enjoy about even though they're focusing so much on their content and their monthly patches, these things are still bringing in features and mechanics that we haven't seen before that are getting so much testing. From the ability to scan your outfit at the ASD facilities, to the heat-affected weapons of the Volt weapons, the jump jets on the Atlas Geo, dynamic rain, Underground facilities in 4.3, all these things are new things that normally would have been fairly exciting in previous years, but are now so cooked up in these content drops that it's kind of missed that these things are going to add up. These are going to stack up. At some point, everybody's going to kind of have this moment where they're like, wait a second. A lot of these small things are actually coming together to make a pretty cool situation. Pretty fun content. That might not be another year from now, or it might be not for another year. But by the time we see things like base building and crafting coming in and what most people would call proper exploration, we will have had plenty of time to watch radiation and hazard areas and specific types of AI and heat management and engineering and life support and all these things get some moments in the sun to get their polish. I like that. That's at least the idealistic look. Most of the teams on core gameplay contributed to the Apex Valakar encounter, including in its appearance and how it interacts with the players. The teams were also involved in the new Argo Atlas ICTY, including enabling freight elevators to support the various power suit variants. Oh, but let us spawn them in freight elevators, or let us spawn vehicles in freight elevators too. Then we'll be good to go. The recently added points of interest uncovered several unexpected issues during internal playtests and the PTU. Yeah, we found those freaking quick. Though the teams worked hard to resolve them for release. One major challenge was managing the new location's population and corpse control without causing a significant impact on performance. Several freight elevator fixes were also made across multiple missions, while improvements and bug fixes were made for radiation. Some bug fixing. And core gameplay didn't really hit in June. That's too bad. Mission design team. Last month, the mission design team worked to close out the Stormbreaker sandbox activity for release. For the upcoming Alpha 4.2.1 patch, they expanded the Infiltrate and Defend suite to only use Foxwell as the mission giver and expanded its location pool. They also fixed the Recover Cargo archetype and created an FPS version. This is probably where I found that bunker mention I mentioned earlier. I must have skimmed and seen this. It is good to see that they're fixing some of these bunker missions. I'm very, very hopeful though that we do see them move over to underground facilities soon, and that we see other underground facilities added at some point in the next couple of patches, not just ASD ones. Elsewhere, the team are looking to expand the Ship Battles mission suite with a new escort-based archetype. For this, players will either escort a ship to a hangar or from a hangar to a safe range where it can quantum jump. Well, that's a little boring. I thank you, first of all, for the new mission. We heard a little bit about this on a monthly report earlier this year, you may remember. And I took us back to a monthly report from years ago where they talked about the idea of like escorting a ship around as it flies around the system. This is definitely a step back from that in terms of ambition. We'll have to see where it goes. I'm sure it's a different kind of mission altogether that they're going for here. You know what? If this mission type leads to NPCs flying to and from space stations in this game, more power to them. I was just talking about how a lot of these things are little features that'll stack up over time that maybe aren't as noticeable because they're kind of in the content. If we get missions where an NPC ship needs to take off from a space station, fly to a destination or a certain point, and quantum travel, and we have to like escort them doing that, that's one step removed from NPC ships just flying to and from space stations, which would be a huge help in this game. I would love that. Work then continued on content for upcoming patches, including moving generic contracts over to guilds and factions, which is needed for Reputation V2. We don't get to hear about Reputation V2 very often, folks. That's a good mention. That's a big mention. Reputation V2 work, along with the security work going on, they're adding security back to space stations. They're adding interdiction into server meshing functionality. And they're working on AI-controlled security turrets for 4.3 in specific locations. That, along with Reputation V2, would be good news in the medium term for this game. We'll have to keep a close eye on it and see. Finally, for mission design, the devs are investigating an issue with mission generation, where it appears that there are not enough contracts for everyone, which is likely caused by server meshing. Good old server meshing is gonna fix everything. Narrative team. Following Alpha 4.2's release, the narrative team focused on the next 2 upcoming patches, which will feature a variety of new missions. This included creating new contracts, mission provider dialogue, and environmental story detail for a narrative-rich gameplay location. The team held a performance capture session to record mission dialogue and numerous audio logs to be discovered by players. Additionally, the team supported the mission designers in adding several new combat contracts along with the refactor of several older missions. Okay. So they are still refactoring the older missions. Maybe they aren't waiting for Mission System V2. I might be a filthy liar. Also cool to see more dialogue, audio logs being placed around the game. A lot of my favorite games are real heavy on the audio logs. BioShock, Mass Effect, Deus Ex, even some of the later Halo games got in on it. It's a great way of world building, and I think it's a good way to put lore in the game and let people learn it. Like, there's a lot of stuff to learn about the backdrops of these locations that you'll never get unless there's just obvious exposition. Continuing on, longer term, narrative has been solidifying the next major story arc as the mission content comes more into focus. The team are striving to ensure that the stories that players will experience align closely with the gameplay objectives. Part of this new story will introduce a unique hostile faction. I wonder if that's going to be the next major arc in the A story, in Pyro. So I'm not sure why would we get a unique hostile faction in anything that has to do with the ASD facilities, which is the next big beat in the B story. I'm glad that they're getting a lot of opportunities to flex their narrative chops and like really get into understanding how they want Star Citizen to progress. The experience that narrative is getting right now, I know mission content is a completely different story. They are probably stressed the heck out trying to make the best out of what they have. Narrative wise, this must be one of the greatest possible situations to just have an entire player base that is actively going through what could essentially act as your, not your practice, but like they're setting the stage for Star Citizen. They're introducing us to star systems. They're informing people about how death and respawning works in the game. They're making use of whatever locations they have right now. And they're getting to see how players react, how the game progresses. And on a month-by-month basis, they're probably getting a lot of good data that's going to allow them to hit off with the main story, with Star Citizen 1.0, with all these location-based missions being a lot more progressed and mature by the time we hit that point. I hope that's how it goes. Like, if I'm running this team, I'm telling them, you guys have fun with this, but refine your practice with this. Use this time. Super valuable. All right, lastly, in narrative, in support of the Alien Week, Narrative released a handful of new and expanded Galactopedia articles that focused on the strange fauna and life forms found in the PU. Moving on to online technology, the online services team continued to work on the item imprint system. Design aspects are being discussed, technical documentation is being written, and service development began. The team also began preliminary discussions for the upcoming instancing service in collaboration with other teams. They're currently defining the objectives and high-level technical details to estimate and plan the work properly. Now, I am not going to try and read too much into this, but instancing service could very well mean in-game instancing, which is a current possibility, maybe, hope, option with the upcoming 4.3 update and the underground facilities that they're including in that. I covered that on a video that's been on the channel over the last day or two, and I will continue to cover this, but this is just another clue that maybe we're going to see instances in specific gameplay scenarios in 4.3, which could point towards the Area 18 underground air locations coming sometime after, possibly in the next 6 to 8 years. The idea of this, oh, sorry, I got ahead of myself. Furthermore, the team discussed inventory ID enforcement on the inventory API. The idea of this project is to ensure that inventory API only accepts calls that affect a specific inventory ID. This would set up the foundation for the upcoming Entity Graph Global Database sharding. I don't know what that is. Interesting. I don't think I've heard of this before. Let's look at the road to server meshing real quick. An unofficial resource put out by my good friend Unobtainium. He's been on the podcast a couple times, actually, if you guys want to check that out. Just search Unobtainium on Space Tomato 2, and you'll find this episode. I don't see... What was it called? Entity Graph Global Database Sharding. Entity Zones. Entity Authority. Sharding the database. I don't really know where this fits in, but I would be interested in hearing if this is something we knew about before or not. This is a great resource, by the way, if you want to understand server meshing a little more. It has tons and tons of resources, sources, links, everything that you could need to look through it and finally dispute the claims that your friend is making that it's all just instancing anyways. I've gone over it so many times and I still can't do it, so best of luck to you guys. This stuff's weird to me. The online technology team also worked on various improvements and bug fixes to provide a better experience for players. The live tools team reworked the filtering and sorting functionality of the moderation tool, significantly enhancing the overall user experience. They also addressed technical debt and introduced quality of life improvements such as quick access to various tools linked directly to game instances. In parallel, testing began for the new Montreal development MTL development infrastructure, which offloads machine learning, which offloads computational load from individual developer machines, making day-to-day work smoother and more efficient. Additionally, improvements continued to the crash handler, making it more reliable and less prone to errors. The network team focused on bug fixing and stability updates. Steady progress is currently being made towards dynamic server meshing, which is also crucial for the successful implementation of instancing. What? I'm gonna need a crash course on that. That's interesting to hear. Steady progress is being made towards dynamic server meshing. That on its own is fantastic to hear, although I wish we could get a little more information on that, maybe a Star Citizen Live. But this part, crucial for the successful implementation of instancing. Why would that be? Why would that be the case? So instances won't be their own, what is it called? Game database DGS, I think it's called. Interesting. We will keep a very close eye and ear on this. I will reach out to some of the people that I know more about this kind of thing than I do, because I'm wondering what this implies about instances that Star Citizen is using, if they will perform differently than what we traditionally think of as an instance. Either way, clearly they're able to do some form of instancing without dynamic server meshing. We've seen that in the hangars, so we very well could still see that in 4.3 without this tech. So this does not mean that they're looking at dynamic server meshing for 4.3. This probably just means that they will switch over to a different form of doing these instances once that tech's available. R&D team. Gas cloud rendering was further refined based on the improvements implemented in March. To get additional detail and improve distance read, support for an extra erosion layer was added. Controls were also added to boost intermediate cloud density during the shaping and erosion process to prevent clouds from thinning out too much. The goal is to preserve the overall shape of the original VDB as much as possible, with details added at the cloud interface. The previous density blending step was replaced by a new merging step that combines shaped and original VDB density. This fixes visual artifacts caused by the blending step and helps to preserve details. Lastly, Edge albedo control was made aware of the cloud's density environment to limit darkening to shaped regions without the presence of density coming from the original VDB. All improvements were made available to both the PU and Squadron 42. That's mainly optimization stuff, making clouds run better, making the lighting with clouds look a little better for us. Elsewhere, the performance of planet cloud rendering for cameras in orbit was increased. That's cool. Also, night sky rendering was improved. Previously, it incorrectly included my scattering with regards to the fully occluded sun and produced undesired fake halos, especially when looking at the night sky from orbit. This is now fixed. Furthermore, help was provided to fix the reflection of atmosphere content on water surfaces that was too dark under some conditions. Finally, VFX. The VFX code and art teams worked on several things for Alpha 4.2. For example, the irradiated Valacar received bespoke animations and new irradiated VFX like spit, while the weather VFX was refined and increased to make the event even more tense. The Argo Atlas Icti also received new impact and surface effects. Okay, there's your monthly report, folks. A look at what was going on last month in Star Citizen. Unfortunately, core gameplay did not slap quite like normal this time, which is where most of the excitement comes from. But mission design, narrative, and online technology actually were pretty interesting this month. That was an unexpected highlight of this report. AI, as always, looking interesting, but AI stuff is more exciting when I actually see it in the game. I'm happy that the narrative is going the way it is. I am satisfied with the fact that we're getting drops of contracts almost every month, if not every other month, compared to it taking multiple years before to get any new contracts in the game. Like, my expectations are higher. All of our expectations should be higher. But the way that they've been delivering this year is such a stark contrast to any other year they've ever run this game. And so I do appreciate what they've been doing with it. There are definitely things that need to be fixed up, places that we got to see patches applied, and features that need to be replaced. We're really hurting for some features. But overall, I think things are going fairly well. Either way, that's the monthly report. We're going to go ahead and get on to the ship section now. If you are watching this on Space Tomato 2, just check it. It'll literally be one of the, click the channel. It'll probably pop up for you. See you over there.